The Boy and the Broken Wheel. The sun was dipping low over the old neighborhood, casting long shadows across the worn-out sidewalks. Nathan Parker adjusted the straps of his tattered backpack as he made his way home from school. His feet shuffled across the cracked pavement, and his ears caught the familiar hum of the city around him. The distant chatter of kids playing, the honking of cars, and the faint music leaking from a corner store's radio. Nathan's family had moved to this part of town 2 years ago after his father's job loss, and things had been tough ever since. His mother worked double shifts at the diner on Main Street, leaving Nathan to shoulder more responsibilities than most boys his age. Despite the challenges, Nathan was resilient. He had a knack for helping out wherever he could, often picking up odd jobs for a few extra dollars to support his family. That afternoon, the streets were buzzing with activity as Nathan turned the corner near the old fairgrounds. A makeshift carnival had set up shop for the week, its colorful tents and spinning rides standing in stark contrast to the grayness of the neighborhood. Nathan had hoped to sneak a glance at the Ferris wheel towering over the other attractions before heading home. He couldn't afford a ticket, but the sight of the rides always stirred something childlike and hopeful inside him. As he walked past, he caught sight of a few kids from school huddled around a stand selling candied apples. He waved but kept moving, not wanting to explain why he couldn't join them. His pockets jingled with loose change, just enough for bread and milk for dinner. His mom had reminded him that morning, "Every penny counts, Nathan." Just as he was about to turn away, a metallic screech ripped through the air. Nathan froze. The sound was piercing, a discordant wail that sent a shiver up his spine. His eyes darted to the source. A massive wheel, as big as a car, had broken free from one of the carnival rides. It teetered for a moment before crashing to the ground and rolling, its momentum building as it hurtled straight toward a crossing street. It was like time slowed down. Nathan's heart raced as he saw the wheel heading straight for an elderly man hobbling across the road. The man, oblivious to the danger, leaned heavily on his cane, each step painstakingly slow. Nathan didn't think, he just acted. Dropping his backpack, he sprinted toward the old man, his sneakers pounding against the pavement. The wheel thundered closer, bouncing wildly as it barreled down the street. People screamed, some ducking for cover, others frozen in shock. "Sir, move," Nathan shouted at the top of his lungs, but the man didn't hear him. Nathan reached him in the nick of time. Grabbing the man's arm, he pulled with all his strength, dragging them both to the side of the street. They tumbled to the ground as the wheel roared past, its shadow momentarily engulfing them. It smashed into a parked car with a deafening crash, sending shards of glass and debris flying. Dust filled the air, and for a moment, everything was silent. Then the murmurs began. "Did you see that? That boy saved him." Nathan coughed, his chest heaving as he sat up. The old man was trembling beside him, his face pale and his eyes wide with shock. "Son," the man stammered, his voice shaky. You saved my life." Nathan nodded, still catching his breath. "Are you okay, sir? You're not hurt, right?" The old man reached out, gripping Nathan's arm with surprising strength. Tears welled up in his eyes as he tried to speak but couldn't find the words. Nathan helped him to his feet, brushing the dust from his clothes. The crowd began to gather around them, murmurs of admiration and disbelief rippling through the air. Nathan felt his cheeks flush. He wasn't used to being the center of attention. "Kid, you're a hero," someone shouted. "Are you all right, son?" another voice called out. Nathan avoided their gazes, his mind already drifting back to the milk and bread he still needed to buy. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders again, as if the adrenaline of the moment had evaporated. "I have to go," Nathan said quietly, helping the old man to a nearby bench before stepping away. The man reached for him, his voice hoarse. "Wait. Son, please. What's your name?" "Nathan," he replied, glancing back for a moment. "Bless you, Nathan," the man whispered, tears streaking down his face. Nathan nodded, picking up his backpack and slipping away from the growing crowd. He didn't wait to hear the rest of the praise or questions. He didn't feel like a hero. He had only done what anyone else should have done. By the time Nathan reached home, the sky was a deep shade of orange. His mom was standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, but her expression soft. She always worried when he was late, even though she tried to hide it. "Sorry, Mom," Nathan said, giving her a small smile. "I got held up." Her eyes scanned him, narrowing slightly at the dirt on his clothes and the scrape on his elbow. "What happened?" "Nothing big," Nathan said quickly. "Just helped someone out." She sighed but didn't press further, knowing Nathan rarely shared much unless he had to. "Dinner's almost ready," she said instead. "Go wash up." As Nathan scrubbed his hands in the sink, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. He didn't look like a hero, just a tired boy with dirt-streaked cheeks and messy hair. But in the depths of his reflection, he saw something else too, a quiet pride he couldn't quite explain. That night, Nathan lay in bed staring at the cracks in the ceiling. The image of the old man's tearful face replayed in his mind, along with the roar of the wheel and the thundering sound of his own heartbeat. He didn't know why, but something about the encounter felt unfinished. As sleep finally claimed him, Nathan had no idea how much that single moment would change his life forever. The next day, everything would be different. The arrival. The next morning dawned clear and bright, but Nathan didn't wake up feeling refreshed. The events of the previous day lingered in his mind like a faint echo. Every time he closed his eyes, he could hear the screech of the runaway wheel, the thudding impact against the parked car, and the old man's shaky voice. His mom's gentle knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. "Nathan, breakfast is ready," she called, her voice kind but tired. "I'm coming," he replied, swinging his legs over the edge of the bed. He quickly dressed, opting for his only clean shirt and the jeans that weren't too frayed at the cuffs. As he shuffled into the kitchen, the smell of eggs and toast filled the air. His mom stood by the stove, her back hunched slightly, a sign of her endless exhaustion. "Mornin', Mom," Nathan said, forcing a smile. "Morning, sweetheart. You're up early," she said, placing a plate in front of him. She paused, glancing at him with concern. "You okay? You've been quiet since yesterday." Nathan hesitated. Should he tell her? Would she even believe him? He decided against it, not wanting to add to her worries. "Yeah, just tired, that's all." She nodded but didn't look convinced. "Well, eat up. You've got school, and I need to head to the diner soon." Nathan ate quickly, kissed his mom on the cheek, and grabbed his backpack. "See you later, Mom." As he stepped outside, the neighborhood was already alive with the morning bustle. Kids raced past him on their way to school, and the air was filled with the chatter of neighbors greeting each other. Nathan fell into his usual rhythm, weaving through the familiar streets. The day passed uneventfully at school. Nathan kept his head down, answering questions when asked but avoiding unnecessary attention. By lunchtime, he was itching to leave. The whispers about the Ferris wheel incident had followed him to school, and a few classmates even asked him if the rumors were true. "You really pulled an old man out of the way of a giant wheel?" a girl in his math class asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. "It wasn't a big deal," Nathan mumbled, stuffing his notebook into his bag. "I just helped him out." "It's all over the neighborhood, you know," she added. "People are calling you a hero." Nathan felt his cheeks flush. He didn't want to be a hero. He just wanted to go back to being invisible. After school, Nathan made his way home, his thoughts still tangled with embarrassment and unease. As he turned onto his street, something caught his attention. A sleek black limousine was parked directly in front of his house. Its polished surface gleamed under the sunlight, a stark contrast to the faded paint and rusted fences of the neighborhood. Nathan stopped in his tracks, his heart pounding. He'd never seen anything like it up close. The neighbors were already gathering, their heads poking out of windows and doorways, whispering to one another. "Who do you think it's for? Someone important must have come to visit. Maybe it's a mistake." Nathan's stomach churned with nervous anticipation. He slowly approached his house, his sneakers crunching against the gravel. The limousine's tinted windows made it impossible to see inside, and just as he reached the gate, the driver's door opened. A tall man in a dark suit stepped out, his posture rigid and professional. He glanced around briefly before his eyes landed on Nathan. "Nathan Parker?" he asked, his voice calm but authoritative. Nathan froze. Yeah, that's me." The man nodded and walked around to the back of the limousine, opening the passenger door. A moment later, the old man from yesterday stepped out, dressed in a crisp suit and leaning lightly on his cane. His face lit up when he saw Nathan. "There you are, young man," the old man said warmly, his voice steadier than it had been the day before. Nathan blinked, stunned. "Sir, what are you doing here?" The old man smiled, motioning for Nathan to come closer. "I came to see you, of course. Do you mind if we talk?" Before Nathan could answer, his mom appeared in the doorway, her expression a mix of confusion and worry. "Nathan, what's going on?" The old man turned to her, his smile widening. "You must be Nathan's mother. My name is Gerald Whitmore." His mom's eyes widened at the name, and Nathan noticed a flicker of recognition in her expression. She quickly composed herself. Mr. Whitmore, please, come in." "Thank you," Gerald said, nodding graciously. Nathan led them inside, the driver remaining by the car. The living room was small and modest, with mismatched furniture and a faded rug. Gerald didn't seem to mind as he lowered himself onto the couch, leaning his cane against the armrest. Nathan's mom perched on the edge of the chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "What brings you here, Mr. Whitmore?" she asked carefully. Gerald looked at Nathan, his eyes soft but serious. "I owe your son my life. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here today." Nathan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "It wasn't a big deal, sir. I saw the wheel coming, and I acted." "It was a big deal," Gerald insisted. "You risked your own safety to save mine. That kind of bravery is rare, especially in someone so young." Nathan's mom's eyes filled with tears, and she reached over to squeeze Nathan's hand. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. Gerald continued, his tone earnest. "Nathan, I didn't come here just to thank you. I came here to give you an opportunity." Nathan frowned, confused. "Opportunity?" Gerald reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, handing it to Nathan. Inside is a letter of recommendation and an invitation. "There's a private school in the city, one of the best. They've agreed to offer you a full scholarship." Nathan stared at the envelope, his hands trembling as he took it. "A scholarship? But why?" "Because I see potential in you," Gerald said simply, "and because I believe you deserve a chance to rise above your circumstances. You saved my life. Nathan, let me help you change yours." For a moment, the room was silent. Nathan's mind raced as he tried to process what he was hearing. A scholarship to a private school. It sounded too good to be true. His mom broke the silence, her voice trembling. "Mr. Whitmore, this is so generous. But are you sure?" Gerald nodded firmly. "It's the least I can do. Your son has a bright future ahead of him, and I want to make sure he has every opportunity to succeed." Nathan looked at his mom, uncertainty clouding his expression. "Mom, I don't know if I can do this." She leaned forward, her hands on his shoulders. "Nathan, you can do anything. Don't let fear hold you back." Tears welled up in Nathan's eyes as he looked back at Gerald. "Thank you, sir. I'll think about it." "Take your time," Gerald said, standing slowly. "But remember, opportunities like this don't come often. When you're ready, let me know." As Gerald left, Nathan and his mom sat in silence, the weight of the envelope heavy in his hands. The neighborhood outside buzzed with curiosity, but inside, Nathan's world felt like it had shifted. That night, as he lay in bed, Nathan stared at the envelope on his desk. The fear of the unknown warred with the spark of hope in his chest. Tomorrow, he thought. Tomorrow, he'd decide. The crossroads. The morning light seeped through the thin curtains in Nathan's room, waking him before his alarm could blare its usual jarring sound. He lay in bed, staring at the envelope on his desk. It sat there like a challenge, an unspoken dare to step into a world he had never imagined for himself. His mom had been unusually quiet after Mr. Whitmore's visit the day before. He could tell she was just as overwhelmed as he was, caught between pride in her son and the realities of their life. Their tiny house and modest lifestyle had always been enough, even if it was hard. The thought of Nathan stepping into a world of privilege and opportunity felt as foreign as it was daunting. Nathan sat up, rubbed his face, and made a decision. He needed air, space to think. After quickly dressing in his usual jeans and hoodie, he grabbed the envelope and slipped out the door, careful not to wake his mom. The neighborhood was quiet in the early morning hours, the streets bathed in a soft orange glow. As Nathan wandered, his thoughts churned. The scholarship felt like a lifeline, a chance to escape the cycle of struggle his family had been caught in for as long as he could remember. But it also felt like a betrayal of everything he knew. What would his friends think? Would they even understand why he might leave? And could he even make it in a world so different from his own? By the time the sun had risen higher, Nathan found himself at the park where he and his friends often played soccer after school. The lot was empty except for Jamal, his best friend, who was kicking a ball against a chain-link fence. "Hey man," Jamal called out when he saw Nathan approaching. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," Nathan replied, shoving the envelope into his pocket. He walked over to Jamal and leaned against the fence. Jamal kicked the ball one last time before picking it up. "What's on your mind?" Nathan hesitated, his hand brushing the edge of the envelope. If anyone would understand, it would be Jamal. They'd been through everything together. Late-night runs to the corner store, long talks about their dreams, and shared frustrations over the limits of their lives. "I got offered something yesterday," Nathan finally said, his voice quiet. "A scholarship to a private school." Jamal blinked, surprised. "Private school? Like one of those fancy ones uptown?" Nathan nodded, pulling the envelope out of his pocket and handing it to Jamal. "The guy I helped, the old man," he arranged it, "said it's a full ride." Jamal whistled low as he scanned the letter. "This is big, Nate. Real big." "I know," Nathan said, kicking at the dirt with his shoe. "But I don't know if I can do it. I mean, look at me. I'm just a kid from here. What do I know about private schools and rich kids?" Jamal looked up from the letter, his expression serious. "What do you know? You know how to hustle. You know how to work harder than anyone else. That's all you need, man." Nathan frowned. "But what if I don't fit in? What if I fail?" "Then you fail trying to do something amazing," Jamal said simply. "But you're not going to fail, Nate. You've got more fight in you than anyone I know." Nathan looked at his friend, his chest tightening. "You really think I should do it?" Jamal handed the letter back with a grin. "I think you'd be crazy not to. But you better not forget about us when you're out there living the dream." Nathan laughed, the tension in his chest easing just a little. "I could never forget you guys." Nathan spent the rest of the day mulling over Jamal's words. When he got home, his mom was sitting at the kitchen table, the bill spread out before her like an insurmountable puzzle. She looked up when he walked in, her eyes filled with questions he hadn't yet asked. "Mom," Nathan said, sitting across from her, "can we talk?" She set down the pen she had been holding and nodded. "Of course." Nathan pulled out the envelope and placed it on the table between them. "I've been thinking about the scholarship." His mom's face softened, but her eyes held a hint of worry. "And I want to take it," Nathan said, his voice steady despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. "I know it's going to be hard, and I know it's going to be different, but I think I have to try. His mom reached across the table and took his hands in hers. Nathan, I'm so proud of you. I know this isn't an easy decision, but it's the right one. You deserve this chance. Nathan felt a lump form in his throat. What if I can't do it, Mom? What if I'm not good enough? She squeezed his hands tightly. You've faced more challenges in your life than most kids your age. You've already proven how strong you are. Whatever comes your way, I know you'll handle it. Nathan nodded, the weight of her belief in him both reassuring and overwhelming. Thanks, Mom. They spent the evening talking about the details, how Nathan would get to the new school, what he'd need to prepare, and how they'd manage the changes. Despite her unwavering support, Nathan could see the sadness in his mom's eyes. This was a step toward a better future, but it also meant leaving behind a life they had built together. The following Monday, Nathan stood outside the towering gates of St. Gregory's Academy. The school was everything he had imagined and more, imposing, pristine, and intimidating. The students streaming through the gates looked polished and confident, their uniforms crisp and their laughter easy. Nathan clutched his backpack tightly, his heart pounding. He took a deep breath and stepped through the gates, feeling the weight of every step. Inside, the hallways buzzed with energy. Students gathered in clusters, their conversations filled with topics Nathan didn't understand. He felt like an outsider, his scuffed sneakers and thrift-store backpack standing out among the sea of polished shoes and designer bags. His first class was English, and he sat quietly in the back, hoping to go unnoticed. But as the teacher called roll, all eyes turned to him when she said, "Nathan Parker, our new student." Nathan raised his hand, his face burning as he mumbled, "Here." The rest of the day was a blur. The teachers were strict but fair, their lessons fast-paced and challenging. Nathan struggled to keep up, his hand cramping from taking notes as quickly as he could. At lunch, he found a quiet corner outside and ate alone, the isolation weighing heavily on him. By the time the final bell rang, Nathan was exhausted. He trudged to the bus stop, feeling defeated. Maybe he wasn't cut out for this after all. When Nathan got home, his mom was waiting for him at the door. "How was your first day?" she asked, her voice full of hope. Nathan forced a smile. It was okay. Just different. She pulled him into a hug, her warmth reminding him of why he was doing this. "You'll get used to it," she said softly. "Give it time." As Nathan sat in his room that night, staring at the stack of homework on his desk, he thought about everything Jamal had said. He thought about his mom's sacrifices, Mr. Whitmore's faith in him, and the friends he had left behind. He wasn't sure how he'd make it, but one thing was certain, he wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not ever. Nathan sat at the kitchen table that night, the envelope still clutched tightly in his hands. The weight of the decision bore down on him like a heavy stone. His mom sat across from him, the light from the single bulb above casting shadows on her tired face. The silence between them stretched, filled only by the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the house settling. "You don't have to decide right now, sweetheart," his mom finally said, her voice soft but steady. "This is a big step, and it's okay to take your time." Nathan nodded, but he felt the clock ticking in his chest. The opportunity in that envelope wasn't just for him. It was a lifeline for his family. He knew what it meant. A chance to break free from the cycle of struggling to make ends meet. A chance to rewrite the story that had been handed to them. "I've been thinking about it all day," Nathan said, his voice low. "Jamal said I should go for it. He thinks I can do it." His mom smiled faintly. "Jamal's a good friend. He's right, you know. You're capable of more than you realize." Nathan met her eyes, his own filled with uncertainty. "What if I don't fit in, Mom? What if I can't keep up?" His mom reached across the table, placing a hand over his. Her touch was warm and reassuring. "Nathan, you've been fighting your whole life. Against odds, against challenges most kids don't even think about. This will be hard, yes, but you're strong. And you won't be alone." I'll be right here, cheering you on." Her words settled something inside him. Nathan nodded, his grip on the envelope tightening. "Okay," he said after a moment. "I'll do it." His mom's smile widened, and for the first time in days, Nathan saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you, Nathan. No matter what happens, I'll always be proud." Preparing for change. The days leading up to his first day at Street Gregory's Academy were a whirlwind. Nathan and his mom filled out the necessary paperwork, submitted the scholarship forms, and visited the school's administrative office to finalize his enrollment. The school provided a list of required items, including uniforms, books, and supplies. Mr. Whitmore's generosity extended to covering these costs, but the process of collecting everything still felt surreal to Nathan. He stood in the uniform shop, staring at himself in the mirror as he tried on the crisp blazer and neatly pressed trousers. He barely recognized the boy staring back at him. "You look so handsome," his mom said, standing behind him with a proud smile. Nathan tugged at the collar of the blazer, feeling out of place. "I feel like I'm wearing someone else's clothes." "You'll get used to it," she said, straightening the lapels. "This is just the beginning, Nathan. It's okay to feel unsure." Nathan nodded, but the knot of nerves in his stomach didn't loosen. The first day. The morning of his first day at Street Gregory's arrived far too quickly. Nathan barely slept, his mind racing with every possible scenario. By the time his alarm buzzed, he was already awake, staring at the ceiling. "Nathan, breakfast is ready," his mom called from the kitchen. He dressed slowly, the uniform feeling stiff and unfamiliar. When he finally emerged, his mom was waiting with a plate of toast and scrambled eggs. She smiled, though her eyes were glassy with unshed tears. "You're going to do great," she said, handing him his backpack. "Remember, just be yourself." Nathan nodded, hugging her tightly before stepping outside. The walk to the bus stop felt longer than usual. He could feel the eyes of his neighbors on him, their whispers chasing him down the street. "That's Nathan, isn't it? The boy with the scholarship. He's going to that fancy school now. Good for him." Nathan kept his head down, pretending not to hear. When he reached the bus stop, he was surprised to find Jamal waiting for him. "I'd see you off," Jamal said, grinning. "Thanks, man," Nathan said, his voice soft. Jamal clapped him on the shoulder. "You've got this, Nate. Just remember where you came from, and you'll be fine." The bus pulled up moments later, its sleek design a far cry from the rattling city buses Nathan was used to. He boarded with a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. A new world. Street Gregory's was even more intimidating in person than it had been during the tour. The sprawling campus was immaculate, with towering buildings, manicured lawns, and students who seemed to walk with an air of effortless confidence. Nathan felt like a fish out of water as he navigated the hallways, clutching his schedule like a lifeline. His first class was English, and he slipped into a seat at the back, hoping to go unnoticed. "Class, we have a new student joining us today," the teacher announced, her warm smile doing little to ease Nathan's anxiety. "Nathan Parker, would you like to introduce yourself?" Nathan's face burned as all eyes turned to him. He stood awkwardly, his voice barely audible as he said, "Hi, I'm Nathan." A few students exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Nathan sat down quickly, his heart racing. The rest of the day passed in a blur of unfamiliar faces and overwhelming lessons. The classes were faster paced than he was used to, the material more advanced. By lunchtime, Nathan felt like he was drowning. He found a quiet spot under a tree in the courtyard, away from the bustling cafeteria. As he ate the sandwich his mom had packed, he couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. "Mind if I sit here?" Nathan looked up to see a boy with dark hair and a friendly smile standing above him. He nodded hesitantly. "Sure." The boy plopped down beside him, holding out a hand. "I'm Alex. You're the new kid, right?" "Yeah," Nathan said, shaking his hand. "Nathan. Nice to meet you, Nathan." Street Gregs can be a lot at first, but you'll get the hang of it," Alex said, unwrapping his own lunch. "If you need help with anything, just let me know." Nathan nodded, grateful for the gesture. For the first time that day, he felt a flicker of hope. The first hurdle. That evening, Nathan sat at his desk, staring at the stack of homework in front of him. The equations in his math textbook looked like a foreign language, and the essay assignment for English felt impossibly daunting. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. What did I get myself into? His mom poked her head into his room, a concerned look on her face. "How's it going?" Nathan gestured to the books. "It's a lot." She walked over, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You've faced harder things, Nathan. You'll get through this too." Nathan nodded, her words giving him the push he needed. He picked up his pencil and got to work, determined to prove that he belonged. As the night wore on, Nathan's determination grew. He wasn't just doing this for himself. He was doing it for his mom, for Jamal, and for the neighborhood that had shaped him. No matter how hard it got, he wasn't going to quit. Finding his footing. The first week at Street Gregory's was a whirlwind for Nathan. Each day felt like an uphill battle, with new challenges waiting for him in every class, every hallway, and every interaction. He was getting used to being the new kid, but the weight of expectation bore down on him heavily. Every stumble in class, every blank stare from a classmate, made him question if he belonged there at all. But amidst the chaos, small victories began to emerge. The push to keep going. Friday morning arrived, bringing with it a sense of dread. Nathan sat at his desk, his textbooks open, as he tried to make sense of his math homework. His pencil hovered over the paper, the numbers blurring together. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't figure out the final steps to solve the equations. With a frustrated sigh, he slammed the pencil down. His mom, standing in the doorway, watched him with concern. She stepped into the room, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Nathan, I can see how hard you're trying," she said softly. "But you don't have to do this alone. If you need help, ask for it." "I don't want them to think I'm stupid," Nathan muttered, his eyes fixed on the pages. "I don't want them to regret giving me this chance." His mom knelt beside him, turning his face toward hers. "You're not stupid, Nathan. You're brave. It takes courage to admit when you need help, and even more to push through something new and unfamiliar. Don't let fear hold you back." Nathan nodded, her words sinking in. He knew she was right, but asking for help still felt like admitting failure. Still, as he packed his books into his bag, he resolved to try. An unexpected ally. During math class, Nathan struggled through the first half of the lecture, furiously scribbling notes in an attempt to keep up. When the teacher announced a group activity, Nathan's heart sank. Working in a group meant exposing just how lost he was. He was paired with Alex, the boy who had sat with him during lunch earlier in the week, and a girl named Clara, who always seemed to have the right answer for everything. Nathan glanced nervously at his notebook, where half-formed equations stared back at him like a taunt. "So," Alex said cheerfully, sliding his chair closer to Nathan's, "let's tackle this." Clara quickly took charge, dividing the problem into parts and rattling off terms that made Nathan's head spin. He nodded along, pretending to understand, until Alex leaned over and whispered, "You okay?" Nathan hesitated before whispering back, "Not really. I don't get any of this." Alex nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Don't worry. I've been there. Let's break it down together." Nathan felt a flicker of relief as Alex guided him through the problem step by step. Clara joined in, explaining concepts in simpler terms when Nathan got stuck. By the end of the activity, Nathan had a better grasp of the material and even managed to contribute to their solution. "See," Alex said, grinning. "You're getting it." "Thanks," Nathan said, a genuine smile breaking across his face. For the first time since starting at Street Gregory's, he felt like he wasn't completely alone. The soccer field. Later that day, Nathan found himself at the soccer field. It had been years since he played seriously, but the idea of joining the team had stuck in his mind since Alex mentioned it. The coach, a tall, stern-looking man with a whistle around his neck, eyed Nathan as he approached. "You here for tryouts, Parker?" "Yes, sir," Nathan said, standing straighter. The coach nodded. "All right, let's see what you've got." Nathan stepped onto the field, his nerves buzzing as he joined the other boys running drills. The movements came back to him slowly. The rhythm of the ball at his feet, the sharp focus of aiming for a goal. He wasn't as fast or as polished as some of the others, but he poured everything he had into each sprint, each pass, each shot. By the end of practice, he was drenched in sweat but exhilarated. The coach blew his whistle, gathering the players in a huddle. "Good work today, everyone," the coach said. "We'll announce the team next week. Parker, you've got potential. Keep it up." Nathan's heart swelled with pride. As he left the field, Alex caught up with him, clapping him on the back. "You did great out there," Alex said. "Told you the team could use you." Nathan grinned. "Thanks. It felt good to play again." Facing the critics. Not everyone at Street Gregory's was welcoming. A few students made their disdain for Nathan clear, their sneers and whispered comments cutting deep. One afternoon, as Nathan walked into the cafeteria, he overheard a group of boys laughing near the door. "Did you see the new kid on the field?" one of them said. "He looked like he never kicked a ball in his life." "Probably hasn't." Another added, "What's he even doing here? Charity case." Nathan's face burned, but he kept walking, clutching his lunch tray tightly. He found Alex and Clara at their usual table and sat down without a word. "You okay?" Clara asked, noticing his silence. Nathan forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." Alex exchanged a look with Clara before leaning in. "Listen, Nathan, ignore those guys. They don't know anything about you." "It's easier said than done," Nathan muttered. "I get it," Alex said. "But you've got people who believe in you. Don't let the rest get to you." Nathan nodded, though the words still stung. He knew he couldn't let them shake his resolve, but it was harder than he'd expected. A letter from home. That night, Nathan found a letter on his desk, written in his mom's familiar handwriting. He opened it, the words blurring as he read. "Dear Nathan, I know how hard you're working, and I want you to know how proud I am. Every day, you're showing more strength and determination than I could have ever imagined. I know it's not easy, but remember why you're doing this, not just for yourself, but for all of us. No matter how far you go, you'll always have a home here. And no matter what happens, I believe in you. Keep pushing forward, Nathan. You're capable of amazing things. Love, Mom." Nathan set the letter down, his chest tight with emotion. He folded it carefully and placed it in his backpack, a reminder of everything he was working toward. The spark of confidence. The weekend gave Nathan a chance to regroup. He spent hours poring over his books, practicing math problems until they finally made sense and drafting his essay for English with more confidence. By Sunday night, he felt more prepared for the week ahead. When Monday arrived, Nathan walked into his classes with his head held higher. He wasn't entirely confident yet, but he was determined to keep trying. In English, he raised his hand to answer a question for the first time, earning a nod of approval from his teacher. In math, he solved a problem on the board, his nerves steady as he worked through each step. By the end of the day, Nathan felt a glimmer of something he hadn't felt since he arrived at Street Gregory's: belonging. Nathan's second week at Street Gregory's began with a sense of cautious optimism. Over the weekend, he had resolved to push through the challenges, to silence the doubts that echoed in his mind. His mom's letter, tucked securely in his backpack, felt like a secret weapon, a reminder of the strength she saw in him, even when he struggled to see it himself. The school day started as usual, with students bustling through the hallways and chatting in groups. Nathan kept to himself, his head lowered as he navigated the sea of polished uniforms. He still felt like an outsider, but something had shifted. There was a spark of determination now, an awareness that he didn't have to prove himself to anyone but himself. A test of resolve. English class was the first hurdle. Mrs. Ellison, the teacher, handed out essays that had been assigned the previous week. Nathan had spent hours on his, rewriting paragraphs and rereading every sentence until he thought it was perfect. As she approached his desk, his stomach churned. She placed the essay face down in front of him. "Good work, Nathan," she said softly before moving on. Nathan's heart thudded in his chest as he flipped the paper over. There, scrawled in red ink at the top, was a grade he had never seen before in his life. An A. He stared at it, his hands trembling. For a moment, he felt a rush of disbelief. He hadn't expected to fail, but he also hadn't dared to hope for this. Alex, who sat in the row ahead of him, turned around and grinned. "Told you you'd do fine," he whispered. Nathan managed a small smile, his confidence bolstered. Making a mark. In math class, Nathan found himself paired with Clara again for a group exercise. This time, instead of dreading the activity, he felt a flicker of excitement. Over the weekend, he had practiced the concepts they'd been working on, and now he was ready to contribute. As Clara worked through the first problem, Nathan leaned over and pointed at her notebook. "I think you skipped a step there," he said hesitantly. Clara looked at him, surprised, then back at the equation. "You're right," she said, correcting it. "Good catch." Nathan felt a surge of pride. By the end of the exercise, he had not only kept up but had also helped their group solve one of the trickiest problems. When Mrs. Bennett reviewed their work and praised their accuracy, Nathan felt the warm glow of accomplishment. Facing the bullies. Lunchtime, however, brought a reminder of the challenges Nathan still faced. As he walked through the cafeteria with his tray, a group of boys from his grade blocked his path. Their leader, a tall, blond boy named Carter, smirked as Nathan approached. "Hey, Parker," Carter said, his tone mocking. "How's life in the charity lane?" Nathan froze, his grip tightening on his tray. "Excuse me," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You heard me," Carter said, stepping closer. "We all know why you're here. Don't think you're one of us just because they let you in the door." The cafeteria seemed to grow quieter, the surrounding chatter fading as more students turned to watch the exchange. Nathan's cheeks burned, but he refused to back down. "I'm here to learn," he said firmly, "and I'm not going anywhere." Carter's smirk faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "We'll see how long that lasts," he muttered before walking away with his friends. Nathan exhaled, his heart pounding. As he made his way to his usual table with Alex and Clara, he tried to shake off the encounter. He couldn't let them get to him, not when he had come this far. Strength and friendship. Alex was waiting at the table, his expression dark. "Carter giving you trouble?" "Nothing I can't handle," Nathan said, setting his tray down. Alex leaned forward, his voice low. "Don't let him get to you. He's been like that with every new kid who comes here. He acts tough, but he's just insecure." Clara nodded. "He tried to pull the same thing with me last year when I transferred. Ignore him, Nathan. He's not worth your energy." Nathan nodded, grateful for their support. He hadn't realized how much it meant to have people in his corner until now. The soccer tryouts. That afternoon, Nathan stood at the edge of the soccer field, watching as the other boys warmed up for tryouts. His nerves buzzed, but he reminded himself why he was there. Soccer had always been a refuge for him, a place where he felt strong and capable. He wasn't going to let fear take that away from him. The coach blew his whistle, calling everyone to the center of the field. "All right, listen up," he said. "Today's your chance to show me what you've got. Hustle hard, and don't hold back." The tryouts began with basic drills: passing, dribbling, shooting. Nathan threw himself into each one, his focus sharp and his movements precise. He could feel the eyes of the other players on him, some sizing him up, others dismissing him outright, but he didn't let it distract him. When it was time for scrimmages, Nathan's confidence wavered. He was placed on a team with Carter, who seemed less than thrilled. "Don't slow us down, Parker," Carter said as they lined up. Nathan didn't respond. He let his actions speak for him. The game was intense, with players darting across the field and the ball moving like lightning. Nathan kept his head in the game, intercepting passes and making quick decisions. When the ball came to him near the goal, he didn't hesitate. He lined up his shot and kicked, sending the ball sailing past the goalie and into the net. The coach blew his whistle. "Nice work, Parker." Nathan's teammates cheered, except for Carter, who scowled and muttered under his breath. But Nathan didn't care. He had done it. A step forward. As Nathan walked home that evening, his body sore but his spirits high, he thought about everything he had accomplished that day. He wasn't just surviving at Street Gregory's. He was starting to thrive. The path ahead was still uncertain, and there would be more challenges to face, but for the first time, he believed he could handle them. When he got home, his mom was waiting with her usual smile. "How was your day, sweetheart?" she asked. Nathan set his backpack down and grinned. "It was good, Mom. Really good." They sat down to dinner, the simple meal feeling like a celebration. As they talked, Nathan felt a deep sense of gratitude for his mom's unwavering support. She had always believed in him, even when he doubted himself. Before bed, Nathan pulled out the letter she had written and read it again. Her words felt like a lifeline, grounding him in moments of doubt. He folded it carefully and slipped it back into his backpack, knowing he would carry it with him as he continued his journey. Breaking barriers. The announcement for the final soccer team roster went up the following Monday morning. Nathan had spent the entire weekend second-guessing his performance at tryouts, replaying every missed pass and every imperfect kick in his mind. As he approached the bulletin board in the main hallway, a small crowd of students had already gathered around it. Nathan's heart pounded as he weaved through the group, Alex at his side. "You've got this," Alex said, clapping him on the shoulder. "I saw you out there. There's no way you didn't make it." Nathan didn't respond. His nerves had formed a tight knot in his chest, and he wasn't sure if he was more afraid of seeing his name or not seeing it. Finally, he reached the board. His eyes scanned the list once, then twice, and there it was, neatly typed near the bottom. Nathan Parker. Nathan's breath caught. For a moment, he just stared at his name, as if it might vanish if he blinked. Alex let out a cheer beside him, drawing the attention of a few nearby students. "See, told you," Alex said, grinning. "Congrats, man." Nathan smiled, a mix of pride and relief washing over him. For the first time since he'd arrived at Street Gregory's, he felt like he had truly earned his place. The first practice. That afternoon, Nathan joined his new teammates on the field for their first official practice. The team was divided into smaller groups for drills, and Nathan found himself paired with Carter. The tall boy's scowl deepened as he stepped up to the line, the ball at his feet. "Let's see if you can keep up, Parker," Carter said, his tone dripping with condescension. Nathan didn't reply. He had learned that words wouldn't change Carter's attitude, but his actions might. The drill was simple. Pass the ball back and forth while sprinting down the field. Carter started strong, kicking the ball with precision, but Nathan matched his pace. As they moved, Nathan stayed focused, ignoring Carter's occasional snide remarks. When it was his turn to lead, he added a quick feint to his movement, catching Carter off guard and making him stumble. "Nice move, Parker," the coach called out from the sidelines, his whistle dangling around his neck. "Carter, keep up." Nathan caught the flicker of irritation in Carter's expression, but he didn't let it faze him. By the end of practice, Nathan's muscles ached, but he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He wasn't just keeping up, he was holding his own. Building bridges. Over the next few weeks, Nathan's confidence continued to grow. His classes were still challenging, but with the support of Alex and Clara, he began to find his rhythm. He stayed after school to meet with Mrs. Bennett, the math teacher, who patiently walked him through the concepts he struggled with. "You've got a sharp mind, Nathan," she said one afternoon as he solved a particularly tricky equation. "Don't let the pace intimidate you. You're more than capable." Those words stuck with him, giving him the push he needed to tackle each new challenge head-on. On the soccer field, Nathan began to bond with some of his teammates. Not everyone was as welcoming as Alex, but a few of the boys started to warm up to him. One of them, a lanky midfielder named Jason, offered Nathan tips on positioning during a game. "You've got good instincts," Jason said, adjusting his shin guards during a water break. "Just trust yourself more. You'll see the plays before they happen." Nathan nodded, grateful for the advice. Slowly but surely, he was carving out a place for himself. A game of redemption. The first match of the season was against one of the top teams in the league. Nathan felt a mix of excitement and dread as the bus pulled into the opposing school's parking lot. The other team's players were already warming up on the field, their movements fluid and confident. "We're the underdogs here," the coach said as the team huddled together before the game. "But I've seen what you're capable of. Play smart, play together, and leave everything on the field." The whistle blew, and the game began. Nathan started on the bench, watching intently as his teammates fought to hold their ground against the opposing team's relentless offense. By halftime, the score was 2-0 in favor of the other team. "You're going in, Parker," the coach said as the team regrouped. "I need your energy out there." Nathan nodded, his heart racing as he pulled his jersey tighter. When the second half began, he sprinted onto the field, determined to make an impact. The game was fast-paced, the ball moving like a blur as players darted around the field. Nathan focused on staying in position, tracking the ball with sharp precision. When a pass came his way, he controlled it with a deft touch, then sprinted toward the goal. He saw his chance, a sliver of space between two defenders. He feinted left, then cut right, breaking through the line. As the goalie charged forward, Nathan struck the ball with his right foot, sending it sailing into the net. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Nathan's teammates rushed to congratulate him. Even Carter, who had been reluctant to acknowledge Nathan's presence, gave him a grudging nod. By the end of the game, the score was tied 2-2. It wasn't a win, but it felt like one. Nathan had proven to himself, and to his team, that he belonged. Standing tall, word of Nathan's performance spread quickly. By the next day, students who had barely noticed him before were stopping to congratulate him in the hallways. Even Clara, who wasn't much of a sports fan, gave him a high five when they passed each other in math class. "You're becoming a legend," Alex teased during lunch. "Pretty soon, they'll name a wing of the school after you." Nathan laughed, though a part of him still struggled to believe it. The boy who had once felt invisible now found himself in the spotlight, and while it was daunting, it was also exhilarating. An encounter with Mr. Whitmore. One evening, as Nathan walked home from practice, he spotted a familiar black limousine parked in front of his house. His heart skipped a beat as he quickened his pace. Mr. Whitmore stepped out of the car, his cane tapping lightly against the pavement. He greeted Nathan with a warm smile. "Nathan," he said, extending a hand, "I've been hearing great things about you." Nathan shook his hand, feeling a mix of pride and gratitude. "Thank you, sir. I'm trying my best." Mr. Whitmore nodded. "And it shows. But I didn't come here just to congratulate you. I wanted to remind you of something important." "What's that?" Nathan asked. Mr. Whitmore's expression grew serious. "Opportunities like this don't come often, but they also don't define who you are. Your worth isn't tied to your achievements. It's in how you carry yourself, how you treat others, and how you rise after every fall." Nathan nodded, his chest tightening. "I'll remember that." "I know you will," Mr. Whitmore said, his smile returning. "You've already shown me that you're capable of great things." A new chapter. That night, as Nathan sat at his desk finishing his homework, he thought about Mr. Whitmore's words. The journey he was on was about more than grades or goals. It was about becoming the best version of himself, no matter where life took him. For the first time in weeks, Nathan felt a deep sense of peace. He wasn't just surviving street Gregories. He was thriving, one step at a time, rising above. The weeks turned into months, and Nathan began to find his rhythm at street Gregories. The initial feeling of being an outsider faded as he built relationships with his classmates, teammates, and teachers. The once daunting curriculum became a challenge he welcomed, and the soccer field, a place where he could truly be himself, felt like home. But as Nathan found his footing, new obstacles emerged, testing the resolve he had carefully built. He learned quickly that rising above didn't just mean succeeding academically or athletically. It also meant holding on to his values and navigating the complexities of a world that wasn't always fair. The scholarship stigma. It began subtly at first, small remarks whispered in the hallways or casual comments during class. Nathan tried to ignore them, brushing them off as harmless, but the words carried weight. "You know he's only here because of the scholarship. I heard his tuition's paid by some old guy who felt sorry for him. He doesn't really belong here." The rumors spread like wildfire, and soon Nathan couldn't escape them. One afternoon, as he packed his bag after chemistry class, Carter leaned against the doorframe, a smirk plastered across his face. "Enjoying your charity ride, Parker?" he said, loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. Nathan paused, his hands tightening around the straps of his backpack. He wanted to fire back, to defend himself, but he knew that responding would only escalate things. Instead, he walked past Carter, his jaw clenched. As he made his way to the cafeteria, Alex caught up to him. "You can't let him get away with that," Alex said, his tone firm. "You've worked just as hard, harder even, to be here." "I know," Nathan said quietly. "But what's the point? He's not going to change his mind." "Maybe not," Alex said, "but you've got nothing to prove to him, or anyone else. Don't let him make you feel less than." Nathan nodded, though the sting of Carter's words lingered. He knew Alex was right, but the constant scrutiny was wearing him down. A game to remember. The soccer team's season was in full swing, and their next match was against their biggest rival, a team known for its aggressive players and unrelenting tactics. Nathan had been working tirelessly in practice, refining his skills and building his stamina. The coach had started placing more trust in him, giving him more time on the field and relying on his instincts during crucial plays. The day of the match arrived, and the energy was electric. The stands were packed with students, parents, and teachers, all cheering loudly as the teams took the field. Nathan felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as he laced up his cleats and adjusted his jersey. "Focus, Parker," the coach said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You've got the talent. Trust yourself." Nathan nodded, his nerves fading as the whistle blew and the game began. The rival team came out strong, dominating possession and scoring an early goal. Street Gregories fought back, with Jason and Carter working together to level the score. By halftime, the game was tied 1-1, and the tension was palpable. "You're going in the second half, Parker," the coach said. "I need you to stay sharp and take advantage of any opening you see." Nathan stepped onto the field with renewed determination. As the second half unfolded, the game grew more intense, with both teams fighting for control. Nathan moved with precision, intercepting passes and setting up plays. When the ball came to him near the edge of the penalty box, he saw his chance. He feinted left, drawing the defender off balance, then cut right and took the shot. The ball curved beautifully, sailing past the goalie and into the top corner of the net. The crowd erupted, their cheers echoing across the field. Nathan's teammates swarmed him, their excitement infectious. Even Carter offered him a grudging fist bump as they jogged back to their positions. The final whistle blew minutes later, sealing Street Gregory's victory. Nathan's goal had been the deciding factor, and the team's celebrations carried them off the field. An unlikely ally. Despite the victory, Carter's attitude toward Nathan remained icy. But one day, during practice, something shifted. The team was running drills when Carter tripped over another player's foot and hit the ground hard, clutching his ankle. Nathan was the first to reach him, kneeling beside him as the coach and other players rushed over. "Are you okay?" Nathan asked, his concern genuine. Carter winced, nodding. "Yeah, just twisted it." Nathan helped him to his feet, supporting his weight as they made their way to the bench. Carter's usual bravado was absent, replaced by a quiet vulnerability. After practice, as they walked to the locker room, Carter glanced at Nathan. "Hey, thanks for earlier." Nathan shrugged. "It's what teammates do." Carter hesitated before speaking again. "Look, I've been a jerk, I guess. I was jealous. You're good, and you're making the most of this place. I didn't think you'd last, but I was wrong." Nathan stopped, surprised by the admission. "Everyone deserves a chance," he said simply. "I'm just trying to make the most of mine." Carter nodded, a hint of respect in his expression. "Keep it up, Parker." A moment of recognition. One crisp autumn morning, Nathan was called to the principal's office. His heart raced as he walked down the hall, wondering what he had done wrong. When he entered, he was surprised to find not just the principal, but also Mr. Whitmore, seated comfortably in one of the chairs. "Nathan," the principal said, smiling warmly, "we wanted to commend you for your hard work and dedication. You've become an example of resilience and excellence." Mr. Whitmore stood, his eyes filled with pride. "I couldn't be prouder of you, Nathan. You've exceeded every expectation and proven what's possible when someone is given a chance." Nathan felt a lump in his throat as he shook Mr. Whitmore's hand. "Thank you, sir, for everything." "No, Nathan," Mr. Whitmore said. "Thank you. You've reminded me why it's so important to believe in people, even when others don't." Returning to the neighborhood. On a rare free weekend, Nathan visited his old neighborhood. The streets were as familiar as ever, but they felt different now. He spotted Jamal near the park, juggling a soccer ball. "Nate," Jamal called out, grinning as he ran over. "Man, it's good to see you." "You too," Nathan said, returning the smile. As they played, Nathan shared stories about street Gregories, the challenges, the triumphs, and everything in between. Jamal listened intently, his admiration clear. "You're doing big things, Nate," Jamal said. "We're all proud of you." Nathan nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you guys. This place will always be home." Looking ahead. As the season continued, Nathan's confidence grew. He excelled both on the field and in the classroom, earning the respect of his peers and teachers. The boy who had once doubted his place now stood tall, knowing he belonged. But Nathan never forgot where he came from. He carried the lessons of his neighborhood, the resilience, the grit, and the unwavering belief in the power of opportunity, with him every step of the way. And as he looked toward the future, he knew it was limitless. Nathan's life at Street Gregory's began to feel less like a trial and more like a journey. Each day brought new challenges, but he faced them with a growing sense of confidence and determination. Still, the weight of being different lingered. The whispers about his scholarship hadn't entirely stopped, and the pressure to prove himself hadn't faded. But something within Nathan had shifted. He no longer felt like he had to fight alone. Balancing two worlds, Nathan's weekends became a bridge between two very different lives. At school, he was Nathan Parker, the scholarship kid. Back in the neighborhood, he was still just Nate, the boy who ran errands for Mrs. Carter on 12th Street and played pickup soccer with Jamal and the other kids in the lot behind the old bakery. One Saturday, Nathan visited the park with Jamal. The lot was alive with the sound of kids shouting, the thud of the soccer ball, and the occasional honk of passing cars. Jamal grinned as Nathan dribbled the ball past him, weaving effortlessly between makeshift goalposts made of battered sneakers. "You've gotten faster," Jummel said, breathless. "Street Gregs must be working you hard." "Something like that," Nathan replied, laughing. He loved these moments of simplicity. No expectations, no pressure, just the joy of the game. But as they sat on the grass afterward, sipping water from plastic bottles, Jummel turned serious. "How's it really going, man? You know, at school?" Nathan hesitated, staring at the scuffed soccer ball between them. "It's a lot," he admitted. "Some days, it feels like I'm always one step behind. Like I don't really belong." "You kidding me?" Jummel said, shaking his head. "You're killing it, Nate. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't deserve to be there. You earned this." Nathan nodded, Jummel's words sinking in. He didn't just want to succeed for himself. He wanted to make his friends, his mom, and his community proud. An unexpected opportunity. As the semester progressed, Nathan's hard work began to catch the attention of more than just his teachers and coaches. One afternoon, he was called into the principal's office. His stomach churned as he walked down the hall, unsure of what to expect. When he entered, the principal was seated behind her desk, a broad smile on her face. "Nathan, come in," she said, motioning for him to sit. "I have some exciting news." Nathan sat down, his hands gripping the arms of the chair. "You've been nominated for the school's Rising Star program," she continued. "It's a mentorship initiative for students who show exceptional promise. If you're selected, you'll work with one of our alumni, a successful entrepreneur named Mr. Langston. He's passionate about helping students like you reach their potential." Nathan blinked, the words barely sinking in. "Me? But why?" The principal's smile softened. "Because you've shown remarkable growth. Nathan, you're dedicated, hardworking, and a leader on and off the field. This is a chance to explore opportunities beyond Street Gregory's and learn from someone who's been where you are now." Nathan felt a rush of emotions: pride, disbelief, and a hint of fear. "Thank you," he said finally. "I won't let you down." The mentorship begins. The following week, Nathan met Mr. Langston, a charismatic man in his early 40s with sharp eyes and an easy smile. They met in a sleek office downtown, where the walls were lined with awards and photographs from Mr. Langston's career. "Nathan, it's great to meet you," Mr. Langston said, shaking his hand firmly. "I've heard a lot about you." Nathan smiled nervously. "It's an honor to meet you, sir." "Call me James," Mr. Langston said, gesturing for Nathan to sit. "I know what it's like to feel out of place. I grew up in a neighborhood not too different from yours. When I first came to Street Gregory's, I felt like I didn't belong either. But here's the thing. You do belong, Nathan. You've earned your spot, and I'm here to help you make the most of it." Over the weeks, their mentorship sessions became a highlight of Nathan's schedule. James shared stories of his struggles and triumphs, offering advice on everything from time management to handling criticism. He even introduced Nathan to people in his network, opening doors Nathan hadn't even known existed. One afternoon, James handed Nathan a book. "This helped me when I was your age," he said. "It's about turning obstacles into opportunities. Give it a read, and let me know what you think." Nathan took the book, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. For the first time, he began to see a future beyond Street Gregory's, a future he could shape with his own hands. Standing up. Despite his growing confidence, Nathan's challenges at school weren't over. Carter, though less openly antagonistic, still found ways to undermine him. During a team meeting, he made a snide comment about Nathan's lucky shot in their last game. This time, Nathan didn't stay silent. "You know, Carter," he said calmly, meeting the boy's gaze, "being part of a team means supporting each other, not tearing each other down. Maybe you should try it sometime." The room fell silent, the other players exchanging glances. Even the coach looked impressed. Carter opened his mouth to respond, but then closed it, his expression unreadable. For the rest of the meeting, he kept quiet. Afterward, Jason clapped Nathan on the back. "That was bold, Parker," he said with a grin. "But you're right. It's about time someone said it." Nathan felt a surge of pride. He was no longer the boy who kept his head down. He was finding his voice. The big game. The final game of the season was against their toughest rival, a team known for its speed and precision. The stakes were high. The winner would take the league championship. The game was a nail-biter from the start, with both teams trading goals. By halftime, the score was tied 2-2, and the tension was palpable. In the final minutes of the game, with the score still tied, the ball came to Nathan near midfield. He glanced around, assessing his options. Carter was open to his left, signaling for the ball. For a split second, Nathan hesitated. Carter had been dismissive of him for months, but this wasn't about personal grudges. It was about the team. Nathan made the pass, threading the ball perfectly between two defenders. Carter sprinted forward, his movements sharp and controlled. He fired the ball into the net just as the whistle blew. The crowd erupted in cheers, and the team rushed onto the field to celebrate. Carter turned to Nathan, a rare smile on his face. "Nice pass, Parker," he said, extending his hand. Nathan shook it, a sense of closure washing over him. They weren't friends, but they had found common ground. Looking ahead, the season ended on a high note, and Nathan's life at St. Gregory's felt more stable than ever. He excelled in his classes, strengthened his friendships, and continued to grow under James's mentorship, but he never forgot his roots. One afternoon, as he walked through the neighborhood on his way home, he saw a group of younger kids playing soccer in the park. He stopped to watch, smiling as they chased the ball with unbridled enthusiasm. "Hey, you want to join?" one of the kids called out. Nathan grinned and stepped onto the field. For the next hour, he played alongside them, offering tips and cheering them on. When they asked him about his school, he spoke with pride but also humility, emphasizing the importance of hard work and perseverance. As the sun set, Nathan said his goodbyes and continued home. His mom was waiting on the porch, her smile warm as always. "How was your day?" she asked. "Pretty great," Nathan said, sitting beside her. He looked out at the street, the familiar sights and sounds of his neighborhood, filling him with a sense of peace. For all the challenges he had faced, Nathan knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. And as he thought about the future, he felt a deep sense of hope. Whatever came next, he was ready.